So I've got a little update here. We are just coming off of the terrible weather the last few days here in Houston. Didn't have power for 3 days. We've got power now, but I've got a hole in a pipe, so I don't have any water. So I'm borrowing some neighbor's water just to water my plants and get them out in the sun a little bit before I take them in for the night. But just wanted to kind of give an update um, on where my plants are, but also I've got to get my compost bin up heated again, and so going to take you through what all I can put in there. So as bad as the storm was, there are some positives that we can take out of it as well, and we'll take you through that. Okay, so if you remember, I'm doing the winter sowing method, and these little guys have been put away in my laundry room for the past 4 days. Some of them sprouted. As you can see, my tomatoes here, and he's extremely leggy because he was not up 4 days ago. He was still tucked away, and he decided to show his face. Same with the green beans. So I'll probably have to replant those. But some things are hanging on. We'll see if they continue to hang on, or if I'm going to have to replant. You can see some white spots there. I'm hoping as they get some sun the next couple of days that they are going to be just fine. I think the tomatoes are going to be good for sure. There's some cucumbers in there that look good. Peppers are looking good, but it's some of these that I probably should have repotted a couple of days ago, but because of the weather, that kind of got busted down the list a little bit as far as priority goes. And so we'll do an update as I can get them out and get them some sun. Probably on Sunday, I'll start repotting stuff. I just want to get them and see if they're going to survive the next couple of days to begin with. Okay, so this is my two-bin compost system. I've got my regular compost here in this bin. Leaves, grass clippings, vegetables, which you're about to see go in there, and all that kind of stuff. This one over here was actually my original compost bin. However, upon doing some research, this is my first time to do this, by the way, but upon doing some research, pine needles take a while to break down, and so I moved all the pine needles and anything that was in my original bin over to this bin here, and this is going to be more of my mulch bin. So it's a lot slower. I don't put as much stuff in here. It's still going. You can see the snow that was on top of my tarp here. It'll provide water, and it'll be just fine. But this is my slow moving one, just trying to break down some of those pine needles so they're not as acidic, so that whenever I put them into the garden, it doesn't change the composition of the soil. You can see there's a lot of stuff in here. There's still leaves in here. Again, this was my original compost bin over on the other side, but there's just too many pine needles. And I mean, as you dig through here, you're going to see that there's a ton of pine needles in here. And so just trying to slowly break that down, and all of that. So this is the one that I'm working with right now, though. I had this up to 100 and what was it at? It was at 100 and right at 100 degrees before the storm, and so it was cooking pretty nicely. So I just got to reheat it back up. And this is where I was talking about sometimes it doesn't always work out in gardening, but there are some bright sides, right? So I had to clean out my fridge. We had again, we were 3 days without power, and so we're just clearing out the fridge of anything that could go bad. Some stuff has started growing things, and some we just don't want to risk it. And so we're going to use that for the compost bin. I'm going to chop these up. I'm going to mix them in, and I'll take you along for that. Okay, so with this being more of a winter compost bin at this point, there's always a lot more browns in the winter that I've found than obviously greens. We do our food scraps and that kind of thing, but there's a lot of browns in here. So I'm going to add some brown, but I'm not going to add a ton, just because a lot of it's already in there. And to be quite honest, I'm not that worried. All the research that I've looked at and done I'm not entirely worried about the 3 to 5 ratio, or the half and half ratio, or whatever the ratio is that everybody seems to come up with their own thing. I'm just going with the concept of, if it was living, I'm gonna put it in here, right? And so you can see that we had a fish that, with the power going off, he froze, and so he's in here. We've got some oranges, some peas, some lettuce, all of that kind of stuff. And so we're just going to take the little machete, and I'm just going to chop this up. I'm going to get it nice and broken up. Eggshells are fine. I've had those in before. Last summer was when I first did my compost bin, a lot smaller than this. But eggshells broke down just fine. The thing that I've been looking at is how much citrus you're supposed to have in here, and it's not supposed to be a lot. But again, if it was living, and if it was just in nature how it is, then it would fall on the ground and nature would decompose it as well. So I figure that's, who am I to argue with? There. Again, I'm just taking my machete. I'm just gonna chop this up. I've got some squash and zucchini, some carrots. I got some more lettuce. These bagged lettuce things. I got grapes in here. Again, some of this is just old, and we haven't been here for 4 or 5 days, so we're just kind of getting rid of it. My daughter eats some of it, and we just don't want to risk anything. I know it's all fine and it's all good and all that, but just in case, we did lose power for 3 days. And so just getting all that chopped up. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna grab my watering can, and I'm just gonna water in a little bit. It doesn't have to be anything, as long as I'm not soaking it down. I'm just watering this in a little bit. Give that bacteria some water. Breaking it up is going to give the bacteria some oxygen and all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to grab some more new brown material. I don't want to get going there. Just some new brown material, not much. Some of these leaves that I've piled up here. Again, I just took a rake and kind of raked around my compost bin. Sometimes when I flip stuff, it just falls out, and I don't do much about it. It keeps the weeds down, but this is the time that I can put some of that back in. Okay, so now I'm just going to do one more side, and then I'm all done. Okay, so I've got all 3 sides completely done now. I've covered it back up. I'm just watering this in. I'm trying to keep the camera steady as well as water, and it's not doing a great job, but you can see, I mean, I'm only using 2 of these little watering stations here. I don't need a ton of water, but this is pretty big area. Probably what, 4 foot by 3 foot, something like that, but it should be enough to get warmed up, I'm hoping. But in the next week or so, I'll probably be adding some more greens and some more browns as I clear out those onions and cilantro if they've died, and anything else that's kind of gone to the wayside here. But I'm really just going to cover this up with the tarp, and then I'm going to be out of here. Now on this side, I'm actually I've got some cucumbers that were left over in the fridge, and that's all I'm going to put on this side. So I'm going to add a little bit of green just to see if I can't jump start it a little bit, but I'm not trying to put just a ton in here. This is just going to slow roast here. I'm not trying to heat it up a ton, just try to give it something to eat and let it go and kind of do its thing. I'm not going to use this till probably May, when it starts getting hot here in Houston. So I've still got a good 3 or 4 months before anything I really need comes from it. Okay, so the last step that I've got that I'm doing is to try to keep that heat in. I'm just going to cover this with a cardboard box, just an Amazon box, nothing special. And I take my composting thermometer and I actually face it towards the thing so that I don't have to take the tarp off. I can just kind of look between the spokes and see what the temperature is. And come middle of next week, I'm hoping that it will be heated up and it starts to cook again. But again, I've actually got to fix this right here. This came off in the storm. But just my little composting area. I've got my tarp. I've got it insulated on 4 sides, really 3.5 sides, we'll call it. But you can see my composting thermometer there. Keep everything nice and toasty, hopefully. And we'll come back in a couple of days and see how it's cooking. Nobody should be quitting because of a setback. And as a coach, we talk about setbacks and having a mentality of working through problems. And this is just another problem. I wish it didn't happen. I wish we would have kept electricity and my house wouldn't have been 42 degrees for 3 days, but it was. And so we'll work through it. I'll sow new seeds if I need to, but I still don't have a heat lamp or anything like that to grow them. I'm just using the sun the way it's designed, and next week's going to be 70 degrees and they'll be fine. I'll probably have to start those green beans again, but everything will be fine. You just got to work through the problem, find the problem, find the solution to the problem. And so if anybody does see this and you're down, just understand that this is the natural cycle of things. This is not something that's going to keep you down unless you choose to let it keep you down. If you want to work through it, then you'll decide to do that. And I hope that you do, because mentally, if we're always quitting things, we're never going to get good at anything.